Hello, and welcome to Creating Wealth with Purpose channel. This is where we discuss how to manage your personal finance, create wealth, be a blessing to others in your community. My name is Dr. Suyini Salifu. Today, we'll be having an interesting discussion with my business coach. If you remember in one of my videos, I promised to invite her over to share the enormous knowledge she has and how she was able to help me when I was able to start my business. And so today we are speaking to Mrs. Ifwa Ohene Ampofo. Madam, you're welcome to the channel.
Thank you very much.
Yes. I'm so excited you are here finally. Our viewers have been looking forward to meeting you and for us to also learn more from you. So can we start a bit with your background, your educational background, your training, and a bit about your work?
Okay. So, thank you very much for this opportunity. And I trained initially as a development planner and policy analyst. And then I've gone on to do some training whilst I grew my career. So I have an executive education in agribusiness management. I also have had some training, a little bit of training in risk management, gender, and a couple of things. So basically that is what I have done in terms of training. But career-wise, I currently work as the station administrator for IITA Ghana, where I lead the team together with the country representative to run the IITA in Ghana. That's the day-to-day management, recruitment, support for scientists in their research and stuff like that. I also do consulting, and my pet thing I do is small business enterprise growth and business coaching and stuff like that. So I work quite extensively on the SMB Engine project, which is why I met you.
Yes.
And so that's what I still do. I've worked with a few other organizations to provide business development training for small businesses and then coaching as well. So that's me.
That's great. Okay, so we're going to focus on the other part, that how I met you was as a business coach. What is it about SMEs that you are so passionate about? Because I can tell you she is very passionate about SMEs.
SME environment is really the environment that grows the wealth that we seek. And it is about having other sources and streams of income other than just your monthly, regular job earning and stuff like that. Now, one of the things I have found out is that people start their small businesses most of the time on a whim. Just because they saw somebody do it and then on a whim, I think I can do it, and they start. And so most people don't really think through what they call their small business. And so that's why I think that most people go wrong from the beginning. And so it affects the growth. People tell me that small businesses doesn't grow, but it's not true. I mean, small businesses should be able to grow, move from the category of small to medium, to become a big, entity. So that's where my passion really lies, to be able to grow small businesses for them to become big businesses.
So let's help an entrepreneur. I have an idea. To do one business or the other. How do I start? What should I think about first with the idea? And then how do I go about implementing it?
Okay. I always liken the start of a small business for something that everybody would be familiar with the act of birthing or the process of birthing a child. Okay. There's the pregnancy point. where you really don't know what's happening inside you, but a lot of things are going on. And that is what you need to do with your idea that you have. You need to research about your idea. Find out what really is this thing. First and foremost, this idea I have, was it born out of the need to solve an identified problem or fill an identified need? If it was, now you really need to define that need or problem to be able to know where exactly your idea will fit in and how it can solve or provide the solution or service that you require. Once you do that, now you need to now sit and find out about what really is the environment in which I want to do the thing. What goes and what are the opportunities I have? What are the challenges I'm likely to face? And an advice I'll give is that you need to get a notebook, a small notebook or a journal, and begin writing these things through. You don't have to rush into starting it simply because I had an idea of starting a pure water business. I just start.
Okay.
You need to really take time to think through a lot of things. And so you have the idea. That's the first step I think you should go through. And it is not a step you take lightly, over just a day or two. It takes time. Read about it. Luckily, we are in an era of maybe even too much information. Search it. Trust me, nothing you have is new under the sun. There must be some information about it somewhere. Somebody may be doing something similar or close to what you are doing, and there's a lot you can learn from it. So for a start, if you have an idea, think through it. And if you're a Christian like me, you pray about it. So that's what I think. Yes.
So what of this fear that if you delay, someone will start it? You realize that sometimes if you see somebody doing something and you feel like, oh, I had that idea, I thought about it. And so you said we shouldn't rush, but people feel that if I have it, let me start so that someone won't take it. Or if I'm researching and I share it with somebody, the person may take my idea. Can you address some of these fears that we have as entrepreneurs?
Okay. First and foremost, I want to assure everybody that the world is big enough to contain everybody. The world is big enough to contain everybody. So disabuse your mind of that fear that if I don't do it, somebody else will do it. In fact, private schools in Ghana, for instance, or everywhere we have started, somebody else added another one, and people are still delivering children and they still have people and students. So you can't say because you thought of starting a private school, somebody else has started it and so you can't start it. In a particular locality, you can have 2, 3, 4 private schools and it will all be full and brimming with children. So the world is big enough to contain all of us. And do not think that because the person has started it, I cannot do it. We all have different capacities, and that will inform the scale at which you start and the speed at which you move and what you focus on. Trust me, Greater Accra is the home of very good Ga Kinky, but everybody sells Kinky and it finishes. So don't worry too much about that one. Okay. I think we need to disabuse our minds. Okay. On the issue of if I share my idea with somebody, the person may steal it. First, there's nothing new under the sun. Okay. Number 2, somebody may think he has stolen your idea. But once you have birthed it, there's something unique about it the person will not have. Okay. And so that is where you need to focus on your uniqueness. Your uniqueness. So there are people like that, but trust me, if you did not birth the idea and generate it the way you thought about it, nobody can really and truly steal your idea. There's something unique about it for you.
So another huge complaint of we entrepreneurs is capital.
Okay.
can you start a business without money? We need money. We need all these things said before we start a business. So how do we address that? You have the idea, you know, you've researched, it's a good idea, but you don't have capital, you don't have money to start.
Okay. I think that you would remember that I've always told you that you don't need money to start a business.
Yes.
Actually, your business starts from the time you birth the idea. And that one, it didn't cost you anything in terms of cash to be able to start. And so that is why it's important for you to really think it through, write things down, set goals for yourself and all that, and work towards that. But if you are going into an area where you necessarily have to probably buy a little bit of raw materials and stuff like that, immediately you birth the idea, one of the things you need to begin looking out or thinking through about is, how do I finance the business? So always start with resources from yourself, no matter how small. So once you think through about it, if you have to start with resources for yourself, you now have to really sit and thoroughly look at your income or your sources of funding and see where you can make adjustments. And savings is key. You must always have savings and try to put a little bit aside. Now, people complain about capital because we dream big, too big at the beginning. So you want to start a soap making business and already you think that you should start at the scale of the Unilever we used to know.
Okay.
And so that is what will scare you. And actually, if you think that is how you want to start, you probably will never get the capital.
Mm-hmm.
But if you think you want to start with just making 5 bars or 2 bars and see how it goes and all that, you would have started without your capital. So I've talked about personal savings and personal funds. You can also, if it's something that you think you would want to involve your family, you can now begin looking at family sources of funding. And sometimes we have a lot of non-cash assets that we can convert to cash and use to finance our businesses. And especially for us women, there's so many things we buy we don't need. And it locks up our funding. And so, those are some of the sources I can talk about.
For example, you are shaking this table very hard.
Yes. For example, we buy every cloth we see.
Oh.
Everything. You can't afford to buy Holland. You buy Holland. You buy this. You buy that. You have about 25 pieces of unsewn wax prints. We buy crockery, English bowls, plenty.
We may need them one day.
That's fine. But frankly, if it's sitting there unused and opened and you need cash, it can be converted. Okay. There's so many things we do, and impulse buying is one of the things that eats up what would have been a very good source of funding for our programs, our dreams. You mustn't buy every new fad that comes, Get used to. There are some people who decide that I cannot repeat clothes I wear to church. I've worn it, so I need to wear something else. You didn't go there for a fashion show. You went there to worship God. So, these are some of the few things I can talk about. Okay. Yes. So, and you necessarily don't need to get every single gadget. You don't need it. There are some gadgets we buy. We probably use them once a year. And so, what is the purpose? Yeah. So, these are some of the things you can do to raise capital. The last thing I always encourage people, I always tell people, is the last resort is to use debt.
Okay.
Take a loan from a bank. But you take it and make sure that it is within what you can repay. Within what you can repay. You may be lucky to have access to grant funds, maybe from NGOs, from foundations and stuff. But I tell people that when you start your business with a grant, you shouldn't let it continue, because a grant you are not supposed to pay back. And so it takes away a certain edge from you as against somebody who really started with their own personal funds, and so they are fully committed to ensuring that we don't lose that money. But this one, because you are not paying back, it's like, okay, I can actually find a leeway out of it. So these are some of the things that people need to look out for. I don't have capital, but when you started, you didn't record even anything down. Even when you are going for debt, you don't have enough documentation to prove to them that you can repay. Yeah, so that is what I think people should think about when you complain that you don't have capital. Yes.
That's good. So you segued into something that was interesting, the scale of the business.
Yes.
And sometimes, like you said, we have ideas. When I was starting my business, I knew I was going to cosmetics. I did want creams, I wanted soaps, I wanted shampoo, hair, products, makeup, lipstick, everything. Do we start all at once? Someone is planning to go into bakery, wants to do so many things. As an entrepreneur, how do you start in terms of scale in order to be successful? Yeah.
Thank you very much. This is one of the things that's really my pet area. People need to start small.
Oh.
When you have a baby, you birth a very newborn baby, and it takes time for the baby to grow up to a certain point. The baby will now learn to sit up, learn to crawl, learn to walk before this run and stuff like that. So that is the same process a business should go through. I think our problem, or the problem of most entrepreneurs, is impatience. We started yesterday, we want to see tomorrow. It's fully fledged tomorrow. But it doesn't work that way. The scale of start should always be small. No matter how big a capital you have, you should start small. I always tell people that if you have a poultry farm and you started with 100 birds, your plan should be to scale to 200, 500 and stuff. But you don't have 200 birds and you put in a plan to have 20,000 birds in your next run. No, it doesn't work that way. What have you learned to keep you going? And so for human life, as we go along, there are certain things you realize that this thing, when I eat, I always get a runny stomach. Why continue eating it? So in your business, when I do this, my products don't last on the shelf. Why continue doing it? You always need to seek the improvement. So scale of start, I advise, should always be small, something you can manage, and then you go through the ropes. It's always critical that way. And have a vision that you want to grow, but grow at your pace, not somebody else's pace. So that is one of the critical things when it comes to scale.